Welcome back to Elevate. Today, y'all, we got Cy, the Southern Yankee, in the building, and he is going to talk to us about his music and rap career and how he made the transition from secular to Christian music. Cy, thank you for being with me today. What's up?
Thank you for having me. It's a blessing. I
Yes.
appreciate you.
No, I appreciate you for being here, and I love your story. I love your work, and so I want to jump right into your story and just your journey in this work. How's that sound?
Okay, let's do it.
Okay, incredible. So let's read your bio first. Cy being a New York born, all right, New York, and Georgia raised artist, he has used influences from the North and the South to deliver the most authentic, witty, yet grimy sound that impacts any listener's intellect. With that said, he highlights topics that many artists aren't willing to discuss. He was inspired at a young age by his father, who was a DJ, artist, and producer. He carries the torch by continuing the musical legacy. In 2020, during the pandemic, Cy released a single called Need You, featuring Crystal Renee. And in 2022, Cy transitioned from secular to Christian hip hop music. Since then, he has erased his past catalog and released his first official Christian hip hop single titled Tap In. I love that. Yes, let's get it. All 2023, he has released singles such as Living a Lie, Pressure, Reassure, Purpose and Pain, Part Time, It'll Be Okay, and Slave to the Flesh and For You. And as of November 2023, Cy is now signed signed artist, to Embassy Live. So give it up for Embassy out there, and choose to give him glory when I tell my story, says Cy. That is incredible.
Yeah.
Incredible.
Going down that, hearing you go down that timeline is super dope. It just shows how quickly God worked within this year.
Yeah.
That's dope.
How he's when he does a work, often I hear he does a quick work.
Yeah. And I think that was like one of the promises that he knew I was like expecting from him because, as my story said, like I came from the secular world and I've been doing music for 22 years.
Wow.
So prior to me becoming a Christian artist, I was like, I had a bunch of opportunities, met a lot of people throughout my career, but right before I became a Christian artist, I was supposed to open for Chris Brown and Lil Baby when they had the concert. Yeah, so like I was on the lineup, and that was around the time that monkeypox had like went crazy.
I remember that.
Right, yeah. So that was like when monkeypox had went crazy.
Right.
So literally the week before, or maybe like two weeks before the show, they canceled all the opening acts. But the promoter that I was like going back and forth with, he never communicated that to me. So I invested all of this time, money, and effort into preparing for this show.
Right.
I ended up copying a van, like one of those, the shuttle buses.
Yeah.
Had all my people come with me.
Wow.
So we prepped to go to the show. We get through the first access gate. We get to the back, and they're like, "Yeah, we don't have any openers." And I'm like, wait, what? I'm like, nah, this is like the worst case scenario. There's no way that this is happening. So basically we got denied at the door. So I just kind of had to like sit there and be like, man, in any other case, like in any other point in my life prior to this, I would have walked away from music just being like, I'm tired of janky promoters and all of that. But I was just like, you know what, God, like, I was thanking you like crazy when you gave me this opportunity.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? So it would be wrong of me to, denounce you all of a sudden. I just was like, whatever you doing, I trust you. You got me looking crazy right now, but whatever you doing, I trust you.
That is all good.
So yeah.
That that right there, that story. I love how you opened up and you talked about a moment that people would consider not their best moment.
Right. Absolutely.
A struggle, a place where you were like what's going on here? I thought I had this opportunity, and you prepped for it. And I'm sure all that preparation was for no reason.
It wasn't because it showed me a lot about myself. One, it showed me I was ready. I was ready for whatever
That's
next
good.
level was to come. It showed me that I was ready and that I could like lock in to prepare. Not to mention it was like this leadership role that I
That's
had
so
to
good.
take because like I said, I brought people with me,
Right.
and these were artists as well. So you know they're seeing me kind of like switch into another mindset and just
Right.
operate differently.
Yeah.
So it kind of helped them do the same thing. But
Wow.
yeah, it was an experience for sure. For
Wow.
sure.
You know, it sounds like you have such a story because you talked about being in music industry for about, I think, 22 years is what you said. And so I'm wondering, over the course of these 22 years, prior to making that switch over to Christian music, what has been some of the highs and lows of those of your career?
Highs, I've met a lot of you know, key people within the industry,
Yeah.
art like legendary artists, and in meeting them I was able to like, you know, maybe perform or something like that, and they're
Wow.
like, yo, you're like, I've heard I'm ahead of my time forever since I was like
Yes.
probably 15, 16 years old. They're like, yo, you're so ahead
Wow.
of your time, you're so ahead of your time. But after a
Wow.
while, like that gets bittersweet. You know what
Yeah.
I'm saying? Because you like, if I'm ahead of my time, like when is my time actually gonna
That
come?
part,
You
that's
know what I'm
good.
saying?
Yes.
So you know those would be the highs. The lows would be situations like the Chris Brown
Yeah.
concert, because I've had a lot of those. I had a situation when I was about 2021. I had a situation working with Epic Records,
Yeah.
and at the time I was like what you would refer to as like a backpack rapper. So I
Okay.
didn't have like, there was no like real marketable
Right.
you know, thing going on with me at the
Sure.
time. It was just like I could rap. Like that's all that matters.
Right.
Like I could rap.
Right.
And I'm sitting at a table with like all these industry people, and they're like, okay, we need to do this, and this. And I'm like, yeah, I don't like that. And they're like, well, it's not gonna work. And you know, hearing all of these people who you think are in like key positions, and you're like, okay, I value your opinion.
Sure.
It kind of was just like disheartening. You know what I mean? You're like, you work so hard to get the attention of these people,
Right.
and it's like they think they know best, and to some degree they do,
Yeah.
but it's like they don't really know. You know what I
Right,
mean? Like they
right.
don't know what it's like to be on the side of the artist. They just assist artists
Yeah.
in that regard. So that was disheartening. That kind of made me turn my heart away from music a little
Wow.
bit. But you know, rebranding, coming back in 2019,
Yeah.
and just deciding, I'm like, all right, one, I'm gonna do it. I'm gonna have fun with this. I'm not
Yes.
gonna take it so personal that I decide to walk away from it again.
Right.
And two, I'm gonna just really see what I can get out of this.
Yeah.
So yeah.
No, you know, I love how you're talking. It's almost like this relationship or this dance that you have with music that you've been on for quite a long time. And then throughout that, you've been learning these really hard lessons. One of them is how do you deal with a number of things? How do you deal with not when people don't quite understand what you're bringing in this era and this generation? People might say things like, "Well, you're too far before your time." But is it that you're before your time, or is it that people are not willing to shift their paradigms to accept the time that now is?
That's good. I think you know, I think it could go both ways. I think there might have been points in my life where I was ahead of my time, but then I might have been in a space where you know, they just didn't know what to do with me.
Yeah.
They didn't know what to do with me. They
There.
didn't have it.
Yes.
But you know, ultimately, like I knew what, even when I wasn't so connected to God, like I knew
Right.
what God put me here to do. You know, so
Yes.
I was confident in that. But you know, I think I needed those situations. I needed those letdowns. I needed those just those obstacles to become the artist that I am today.
That's incredible. So tell us about your transition.
Okay.
You went through a transition about in 2022. Was it from secular to Christian? What happened? Like what made you make that switch? What was that like? Give us all the juicy details.
Well, the Chris Brown concert was probably like the main thing that kind of led me to that.
Yeah.
Because I'm like, man, how much longer can I really thrive in an industry that's like
Right.
just so cutthroat? Like they don't care. There's no remorse,
Yeah.
nothing. And then I had like my wife. She had a friend who I think she told her that she had like a dream about me
Wow.
being like a Christian artist or something like that.
Wow.
I'm like, yeah, all right, whatever. You know what I mean? Like, there's no way. And then my wife was like, you know, I guess I don't know if she like went through that process too, but she was just kind of like, hey, you should just start listening to some artists, just check it out or whatever.
Yeah.
So I'm like, all right, I guess. At the time, all I knew was Lecrae.
Yeah.
Lecrae for real. I knew Bizzle, but I'm also like, how we looked at, like, when I was coming up, I'm like, how we looked at Christian rap.
Right.
It was super corny.
It was
You know what
corny.
I mean?
You're
Like,
right.
It was
You're
super
right.
corny.
It was corny.
So I'm
right.
like, why would I want to dive into that? Like, that doesn't make any sense to me.
Right.
But, I went on this journey of just, like, exploring Christian artists and what they sound like today. And, like, I'm one of those people that is like, when I'm an extremist, like when I dive into something, I dive
all the
in
way
head
in.
first and I'm all the way in.
Yes.
So I probably went on like this week journey of just like finding new Christian hip hop artists.
Wow.
And like by the end of that, I was like, okay, I'm unfollowing all secular artists. I'm about to just follow all these Christian artists. So that's what I did. I probably unfollowed like 500 people.
Wow.
And I just followed a whole bunch of Christian artists, followed a whole bunch of like people who created Christian content. And I'm just like, all right, I'm about to make this transition. Didn't really know what it looked like. At the time, we had joined our church, Embassy City.
Yes.
Shout out to Apostle.
Yes, Brian Meadows.
So that was a whole experience within itself as well, because I'm growing spiritually, but at the same time, I'm trying to figure out how it's going to, be portrayed through my music. You know what I mean? So I'm like, all right, how is this gonna work? How is this gonna work?
Right.
So they had what was called, they referred to it as a soul case. It's like a showcase. So this is probably within the first month of me signing up at the church. Right. My wife is like, you should sign up. I'm like, why? I don't have any music for it. And that's when God, I signed up for it. I'm like, I still don't have anything. We're probably about a week and a half away from the show. Right. And that's when God gave me Tap In.
Wow.
So it was like, okay, we're going to try this out.
Yes.
And ultimately, like, that was the mindset that I was walking into the Soul Case with, was like, I don't really care to win this, like, because it was a competition. Like, I don't care to win this. I'm just going to test this new song out.
Yeah.
I'm going to see if they like it. And if they like it, we rocking. It's cool. It's going to be the first step to me being a Christian artist. And I ended up winning first place.
Wow.
And that, to me, was like, that was super big, even though it was just like a small little competition. Right. Respectfully. I was just like, I've done so many shows and competitions throughout my career. Yeah. And I've never, ever won first place. Like, never. Wow. And arguably probably was one of the best ones there. Yes. But just never won first place. Right. So to win first place, it was just like, okay, God, are you confirming this move?
There we go. Yeah.
So from there, I just kind of just was like, all right, what we doing? Every step of the way, I'm just gonna trust you. Let's do it. So that's kind of how it happened.
Oh my! I'm like, I love your story. It's incredible, and I'm thinking about how you talked about winning first place, and that was huge for you, because not only was it your first time doing a Christian song, but it was like when you did it the first time, you mastered it. Yeah. So it was almost like you finally tapped into what you were born to do.
Absolutely. And it was special because I had already started to create friends in that space. Right. So basically the people who I was going against, like, they were my friends. Wow. So it didn't really feel like a competition. It just felt like we was all going up there and just performing our songs. So they were encouraging me while I was performing and everything like that. Wow. But I knew, like I said, I knew who God created me to be. Yes. I didn't really know what it was going to look like being a Christian artist, because I'm like, all right, now I'm starting all over again. Like, people know me for switching up. People know me for this. So I'm like, here we go again with something new. Yeah. And it turned out to just, man, he's been confirming every step of the way.
That's incredible. Yeah. I'm blown away. So I'm thinking about two things. One, you talked about being in that industry and it being like the secular industry being very cutthroat. And then I heard you talk about when you tried the Christian song for the first time, you had this community of friends. Yeah. So it's almost like black and white in terms of the community that you came from, being in industry and secular, and then transitioning to Christian. It's almost like this brotherhood or this community of support.
Yeah, it was. And it was something like, I had support when I was in the world. Yeah. But it wasn't like this. Like, you didn't have people like praying for you. People being like, bro, like, this is for you. Like,
Yeah.
you're on a show that is a competition, and they're like, bro, you got this. Like, you're gonna be the one. And I'm
They're
like, bro,
encouraging you
we going against each other.
Right.
Like, what are you talking about?
Yeah.
But yeah, it's just a completely different atmosphere.
Yes.
And it just shows you like the importance of this not being about you. You know what I mean? Like, it's about God. You know what I mean? So, I love it on this side. I love it on this side for sure.
I'm so curious to know about the process behind the artist. So you talked about, like, for example, having this competition,
Right.
and you didn't really have anything until about a week out.
Right.
What's the process look like for you when you're creating new songs or new music?
So I would say in the beginning, like with Tap In, I was more so just speaking about my journey. Even when you listen to Tap In, I'm really just talking about my journey leading up to this point. But I realized going forward, you can't walk this walk as a Christian artist and not really be connected to God. Like, there's no real way for you to actively like be producing a lot and not really have a relationship with God. At least I don't believe so. I know that they say there are people out here who, are just, they're using God or using, the whole Christian artist thing as just like publicity or whatever.
Right.
But
Yeah.
I just don't think that you can. I don't think that you can really operate in that space and thrive if you don't have a relationship with God. So in the beginning, like I said, I was given just my past story. But the more I dived into scripture, God would like give me scripture, and I would still be able to relate it to my story and tie it together. So it's more so just like a learning experience. Everything is hindsight for me. Everything, like, there's things that I forgot about that, like, I'll be reading scripture and I'll sit down to create, and like God will like he'll highlight this scripture, but then I'll think about something that happened, and it's like, oh, okay, let's go that way. Let's go that way.
That's so good.
So yeah, it's every time it's something different. Every time it's something different.
It reminds me of David a little bit. I know he was a psalmist, but even the process of the Psalms, Book of Psalms, is the largest book in the Bible and has, so many chapters about his life and his testimony and the things that he endured. And all of it was inspired by what he went through. So he was looking in hindsight. And so it reminds me of that in terms of the process you explained.
Yeah, that's good. That's
Yeah.
good.
So I'm wondering if you can talk about a song that you're really proud of that you produced over the last year, and tell us maybe some lyrics in there, some, few, if you don't mind, stanzas.
It's really hard to pick one song, just because God has like put me in a position to like really create this timeline. Like, every song I create is like where I am right now. You know what I mean? So each one of them are like special places to me, or special to me for different reasons.
Yeah.
But if I had to choose one, I would probably say Tap In. I would probably say Tap In, just because of how fast it came to me.
Yeah.
Like, it was something that I could never take credit for.
Right.
You know what I mean? Sometimes we have gifts and we're like, oh yeah, I did that.
Right, I did that.
You might get a little cocky and be like, I did that.
Yeah.
But with Tap In, I'm like, bro, I'm a week out. Ain't no way I'm gonna have a song done by this point,
Right.
And it was just like that. Like, the words just poured into me. So I'm like, okay, yeah, Tap In is still, it just holds a special place in my heart.
Yeah. Can you give us a few stanzas to Tap In?
Just simply put, the hook. It's hard to lock in when you trapped in. I could feel God saying tap in. That alone, like, he literally was just like, because I turned my back against God. I completely denounced him. I was like, I don't believe in you. I had went through some life situations that I had took personally.
Yeah.
I was in a marriage prior to my current marriage. We had lost our daughter, so I had so much like pent up anger.
Yeah.
And I'm just like, yeah, God, like, I don't believe in you. And if I did believe in you, we got beef. You know what I mean? So to finally like open my heart up, to soften my heart and be like, you know what, I want to try this out again.
Yeah.
And for him to be like, okay, now tap into me a little bit more.
Oh
Tap
my
into me a little bit
goodness.
more. Just those words alone, like, yeah, I could feel God saying tap in. Like that was real. He literally just was like, lean on me and I got you. I'm gonna take you the rest of the way. And it's still that. It's still that.
My Lord. No, I heard your testimony and I'm like, took me back. I'm just like, whoa. Because people would not know that. But
Yeah.
when something like that becomes the number one, even in that competition setting, it comes from a place, from a
Absolutely.
real place,
Absolutely.
from a deep place. So you really tapped into something in order to pull that out.
Absolutely, absolutely, and the one thing that they were saying at the competition was, you just seem so polished, you seem so confident. So I think it was just a mixture of just experience,
Right.
the 20 years of experience, plus like this is me pouring out a truth that I never that I couldn't formulate myself. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it's just special. It's just special. I continue to think about that moment as I continue to walk on this journey as a
Yes.
Christian hip hop artist. I'm always thinking about that moment because I'm like, man, what would I be doing right now if I didn't make that decision?
That's right.
Like,
Thank God for wifey that was pushing you through the
nah,
way,
for real.
telling
For
you
real.
do this, do that, and you listen. Praise
Absolutely.
God.
Absolutely.
But I love the just the Christian rap artists. I think that it's such a unique place and a unique career, and I think that many other young people and folks are aspiring to be in that. And then I think also that there are people that are secular artists that want to make that switch, want to make that change, but they don't. Either their faith level is not like yours, or they don't know how to do it. What type of words of encouragement could you offer to them?
Well, one, I would say that I believe that I believe that a lot of artists think that they won't be accepted if they glorify God in their music. And that's an absolute lie because there's a whole community of people that would accept you and that need it.
Yes.
But ultimately, I would just say, first get your relationship right,
Good.
seek Him.
Yeah.
And then from there, just completely yield yourself and your career to Him, and He'll take your hand and He will lead you to success.
Yes.
He will lead you to success. I'm living proof, and it's still happening. We still moving.
That's
We
right.
still moving.
That's right. And you just had a single drop recently. What was the name of it,
For
and what
You.
was that inspired by?
For you. As I said, on this journey, I'm going through different spaces of telling my story from before. But for you, was special because it was just like, God, this time I just want to I want to give a love letter to you.
Yes.
And that's ultimately what
Oh,
For
that's
You
so good.
is. It was just a place of me. It's one verse, so that was kind of telling within itself because I didn't want to make it like the cliche standard song.
Right.
I just wanted to talk to Him for a little bit, and
Yeah.
even in the beginning, like it starts off with saying, my God is so good." And that came before I released the song. Like it wasn't even on the song. I was just
Wow.
kind of listening to it, and I'm like, my God is so good.
That's
and I
good.
was like, whoa,
good.
that actually goes.
Right.
So yeah, like I would say for you holds a special place in my heart because where I feel like I glorify God in all of the songs that I create now, I feel like that one was like specifically like, all right, forget me. This is all about you.
All about you.
Yeah.
I love that. So with you being from both the North and the South, a New Yorker, but also Georgia, being in Georgia for some time, and now being a Christian artist, you almost have the best of both worlds on both sides,
Absolutely.
and have a very unique sound, a very unique style. How do you see the Christian industry, rap industry, being reshaped through your music?
I think that I think there is authenticity in the Christian space, but I think I just bring a different level of authenticity because as I got my brother Go Wallace, shout out to Go Wallace, we just created a song called Walk Like, and in that song, we feel like in the Christian space, a lot of people talk about victory, and there is victory through Christ, but I think a lot of the times we paint the picture like it's just all, you know, bells and whistles,
Oh,
and
my
it's
goodness.
not. It's sometimes it can be an ugly walk. You
Oh,
know, some
yes.
seasons you go through an ugly walk.
Absolutely.
So that's what I mean when I say the authenticity. I think I give the raw truth.
Yeah.
And people can. I feel like people can trust my word more. You know what I'm saying?
That's
my
good.
words more, because they're like, oh, he's not just trying to make it seem like it's, you know, all peachy. Like he's being purely honest with us. So
Yes.
yeah.
That's good. So you see things reshaping through truth, through honesty, and
Rawness.
I know, yes, and then how that may impact lives of so many people that are listening.
I think you know, I think how do I say this without? I'm just gonna say it.
Yeah,
I think that you know, the cookie cutter kind of testimonies in a way through music. I think, as I said, like with my rawness, I noticed that there are a lot more, not because of me necessarily. I'm just saying I noticed that there are a lot more artists who you know, it's a struggle, because CHH, it's like a battle right now. There are a lot of people who love CHH, but there are a lot of people who are like, nah, you're going to hell for that. Like, you know what I mean? Like, this is not godly.
Yes.
And I think that it's just because they're not used to it being told that raw. You know what I mean? It's almost
That's good right
too
there.
close to being secular. Like, it's not secular, but because it sounds so secular,
Right.
they have an issue with it. And, you know, in my opinion, I'm like, yo, like, God is raising up new people, you know what I mean, or new people to tell, you know, tell the good news the way that He wants it told. It's
That's
not going to
right.
be the same way. So that's what I mean when I say the cookie cutter. It's like, I think that there are certain ways for it to be told that is traditionally told a certain way, but I think that He's raising up new people to just give it raw and uncut.
That is so good, and we didn't even get into that. We don't have the time to do it. We have
it's all
to
good.
have a part two, but
sure.
in terms of the Christian hip hop, the space in the church and where that sort of fits, it's sort of sometimes in a limbo, like not quite on one side or the other, sort of trying to like figure out. People are, you know, certain churches are saying that's not God. You can't listen to that. But I do believe what you said. It's raw. And a lot of times you're breaking certain things like religion. You're talking about things people are afraid to talk about.
Absolutely.
You're coming face to face with pain. You're telling your story in a raw way. Again, reminding me of David. He did it all the time. My tears were my food were my tears day and night. He talked about wanting to die. He talked about his enemies all the time.
Absolutely.
Right. It was the rawness of his testimony and his experience. So I love what you're doing. I love the sound that's coming from you. And I believe that there is certainly a new wave. And I believe you're one of those voices.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
Absolutely. How can people follow your music, download your music, purchase your music? What could they do to find you?
Everything inside the Southern Yankee, SYD Southern Yankee. And then, you know, everything inside the Southern Yankee.
Side the Southern Yankee on which platforms?
All platforms.
All platforms.
Yeah, I'm not going to switch it up. I'm not going to put it for different names. Everything side of Southern Yankee.
Keep it simple.
Yeah.
So they can find you.
Absolutely.
And then lastly, they want to purchase your new single that just dropped. Where could they purchase that?
All digital platforms. Not to mention, shout out to Embassy Live. We have an EP coming. It should be dropping around this time.
Yes.
Around this time. So be on the lookout for that. First single, Green Light. Y'all check it out.
Yes, Green Light. And y'all, we're going to bring Cy in to also minister to our kids as well. And if people are interested in you performing, how could they book you?
Embassy Live. You could click the link in my bio, in any bio, and it'll lead you to it.
Incredible. Well, Cy, thank you so much for sharing this space with me, for talking about your journey, for your transparency. That is not easy, especially as a man. I know y'all got to, keep it like, all that, keep it strong. But you are, I love the fact that you were vulnerable, you opened up, and I really believe you helped so many people.
Amen.
So thank you for not giving up that day.
Absolutely.
They talking about access denied, like, say, what now?
Nah, that was just one door closed so that so many others could open.
That's right.
For sure.
Absolutely. Thank you for that.
Yes.
We
Amen.
appreciate you.
Thank you for having me.
Yes. And thank you all for tuning in and for watching, for listening. Do us a favor, share this out, especially if you know an artist or an aspiring artist. We want to make sure that this message gets out. Please follow Cy, the Southern Yankee. Download, purchase his new single, and follow him. And you're going to want to get him. Book him as soon as you can because he's going to be busy in 2024, y'all. So book him up as fast as you can. And again, we appreciate you all for tuning in. Share this message out. We'll be back next week. Stay tuned.